The old ship floated through space like a tired warrior. Its hull showed marks from countless repairs, and its paint had faded from years under different suns. This was the U.S. Tenacity, once proud but now called names like the museum piece by other ships in the fleet. Most people thought it should have been scrapped years ago, but Captain James Walker knew better. Walker stood on the bridge, his hands clasped behind his back as he looked out at the stars. He wasn't very tall, but he stood straight and proud, his gray hair neat despite the long hours of his shift. 20 years of service had left lines on his face, but his eyes remained sharp and alert. "Captain, we're getting those strange readings from the engine room again," said Tom Wells, the young officer at the main control panel. He tried to hide his worry, but Walker heard it in his voice. Walker smiled slightly. "Let me guess. Marcus is testing something new." As if answering his question, the ship's lights flickered. From somewhere below, they heard a loud bang, followed by the sound of someone cursing. A few minutes later, Marcus Reed rushed onto the bridge. His engineer's uniform was covered in black marks, and his white hair stuck up in all directions as if he'd been electrocuted. "Captain, you won't believe what I just discovered." Marcus's eyes shone with excitement. He looked like a kid showing off a new toy, even though he was older than Walker. "The new engine modifications are working better than expected. We can now push the power output 30% higher than any other ship in the fleet." Walker raised an eyebrow. "Is that what that bang was about?" "Oh, that. Just a small hiccup. Nothing to worry about." Marcus waved his hand dismissively. "But think about it, Captain, 30%. The brass said it couldn't be done, but I showed them." Walker knew he should be more concerned about unauthorized modifications to his ship, but he trusted Marcus. The old engineer might be strange, but he was brilliant. His improvements had saved their lives more than once, even if they sometimes made the ship behave in unexpected ways. "Sir," Wells interrupted, "we're receiving a message from command. Admiral Parker wants to speak with you." He paused. "It's marked urgent." Walker straightened his uniform and nodded. "Put him through." The screen lit up to show Admiral Parker's stern face. He looked annoyed, which wasn't unusual when dealing with the Tenacity. "Walker, what the hell is your engineer doing now?" "We're picking up energy spikes from your section that are off the charts." "Just routine maintenance, Admiral," Walker said calmly, "making sure everything's running smoothly." "Smoothly?" Parker snorted. "That rust bucket of yours should have been retired years ago. I've got 3 new Stellar-class destroyers that could replace it tomorrow." Marcus muttered something under his breath that Walker pretended not to hear. "With all due respect, Admiral," Walker said, "the Tenacity may be old, but she's reliable. We've completed every mission assigned to us." "Barely," Parker said. "Listen, Walker, I'm reassigning your patrol route. Keep the Tenacity away from the main shipping lanes. The last thing we need is civilian ships seeing that ancient heap and thinking the Earth Defense Force can't afford proper ships." Walker felt his jaw tighten, but kept his voice steady. "Yes, sir. Where would you like us to patrol?" "Sector 7. The bridge crew tried not to react, but Walker heard someone sigh. Sector 7 was empty space. Nothing but rocks and dust. It was where command sent ships they wanted to forget about. "Understood, sir. We'll head there immediately." After the Admiral's face disappeared from the screen, Walker stayed quiet for a moment. Then he turned to Marcus. "How long would it really take to get the engine modifications working properly?" Marcus grinned. "Give me 2 days. I'll show you what this rust bucket can really do." The next 2 days passed in a blur of activity. While the Tenacity made its way to Sector 7, Marcus worked non-stop in the engine room. Strange noises echoed through the ship at odd hours, and the power fluctuated so often that the crew stopped noticing. Walker spent most of his time on the bridge, watching his crew work. They were a good team, even if they weren't the fleet's finest. Wells was fresh from the academy, but learned quickly. The navigator, Lisa Brown, could plot courses in her head faster than the computer. And then there was Marcus, who treated the ship's engines like his personal project. Other ships they passed on their way to Sector 7 didn't bother to send the usual greetings. One captain even made a joke over the open channel about museums belonging in orbit, not deep space. Walker's crew pretended not to hear, but he saw their shoulders stiffen. "Let them talk," he told his crew during their daily meeting. "They don't know what this ship can do." "But sir," Wells said, "maybe the Admiral has a point. The new ships are faster, better armed." "New isn't always better," Marcus interrupted. He pulled up a diagram on the main screen. "Look at this. Most modern ships are built to a standard design. They're predictable. But the Tenacity? She's unique. My modifications give us capabilities no other ship has. Like randomly losing power." Brown asked, but she was smiling. "That only happened twice today," Marcus said proudly. "Much better than yesterday." Walker listened to them argue, feeling strangely content. This wasn't the prestigious command he dreamed of as a young officer, but there was something special about the Tenacity and its crew. They might be misfits, but they were his misfits. As they approached their assigned patrol area, Marcus called Walker to the engine room. The usually cluttered space had been transformed. New cables ran along the walls, connecting to boxes filled with blinking lights. In the center, the main engine hummed with a different note than before. "It's ready," Marcus said quietly. His usual excitement had been replaced by something like reverence. "I've done things with these engines that the designers never imagined. We're not just more powerful now. We're different. Better." Walker looked at the modifications. He didn't understand half of what he was seeing, but he trusted Marcus's work. "Will it hold together?" "Probably." Marcus shrugged. "But that's not the point. The point is, we've got something no other ship has. The fleet thinks we're obsolete. Fine. Let them think that. But if we ever need it, this ship can do things that would make those new Stellar-class destroyers look like toys." Walker nodded slowly. "Let's hope we never need to prove that." Back on the bridge, Wells reported they had reached Sector 7. Around them, empty space stretched in every direction. This was where ships came to be forgotten. But as the Tenacity settled into its patrol route, Walker felt oddly optimistic. Let the fleet mock them. Let command hide them away. They might be underestimated, but Walker knew that sometimes the most dangerous thing in space was what you didn't take seriously. As if agreeing with his thoughts, the ship's engines hummed smoothly, all traces of their earlier problems gone. The Tenacity moved through space with new confidence, like an old warrior who had discovered hidden strength. They had no way of knowing that very soon they would need every bit of that strength. That this quiet patrol route would become the scene of humanity's greatest space battle. That the ship everyone mocked would soon make history. But for now, they simply did their duty, the crew of the unwanted ship in the empty sector, waiting for their moment to prove what they could really do. 3 weeks of patrolling empty space had dulled even Marcus's enthusiasm. The Tenacity moved through the darkness of Sector 7, its sensors scanning nothing but dust and distant stars. The crew had fallen into a quiet routine, broken only by Marcus's occasional tinkering with the engines. The silence ended on a Tuesday. "Captain," Wells's voice cut through the quiet bridge. "Multiple objects just appeared at the edge of our scanning range. They're big, sir. Really big." Walker was out of his chair before Wells finished speaking. "Show me." The main screen lit up with dozens of points of light, each one larger than any ship Walker had ever seen. They moved in perfect formation, their hulls catching and reflecting starlight in strange ways. "Are they crystal?" Brown asked, squinting at her navigation display. "The sensor readings are unlike anything I've seen before." Before Walker could respond, every screen on the bridge flashed with the same message: "Surrender or be destroyed." The message repeated in different languages, filling their displays with scrolling text. Finally, a new window opened, showing what had to be the alien commander. The being looked almost human, except for its skin, which seemed to shimmer like the surface of its ships. "Primitive vessel," the alien spoke in perfect English. "You have the honor of being the first to witness the might of the Dominion. Your species will submit to our rule, or it will cease to exist." Walker kept his voice steady. "This is Captain James Walker of the Earth Defense Force vessel Tenacity. You've entered Earth-controlled space without permission. We request that you withdraw immediately." The alien commander laughed, the sound like crystal chimes. "You dare to make demands? Your vessel is barely worthy of notice. It appears your species hasn't even mastered basic space travel." In the background, Marcus muttered, "Basic space travel. I'll show you basic." "We don't want to fight," Walker said, ignoring Marcus. "But we will defend our territory if necessary." "Defend?" The alien's face showed something like pity. "Look upon our fleet, primitive one. Each of our ships could destroy your entire world. But we are merciful. Submit now, and your people may serve us rather than perish." Walker studied the tactical display. The alien was right about one thing. Their fleet was overwhelming. Each ship gleamed like a perfect crystal, geometric shapes that shouldn't have been possible in space. The smallest was twice the size of Earth's largest battleship. "Sir," Wells whispered, "I'm reading energy buildups in their fleet. They're powering weapons." Walker nodded slowly. "Send an emergency signal to command. Full encryption." He turned back to the alien commander. "We'll need time to contact our leaders and relay your request." "You have one of your Earth hours," the commander said. The communication cut off abruptly. The bridge erupted into activity. Brown worked frantically at her console, calculating possible escape routes. Wells kept his eyes glued to the tactical display, watching the alien fleet's every move. And Marcus was staring at his engineering readings with an odd expression. "Captain," he said quietly, "I'm picking up something strange from their ships. The crystal structure. It's not just for show. It's part of their technology. And it's resonating with our engine modifications." Walker moved to Marcus's station. "What do you mean?" "Remember those power fluctuations we were having? They're happening again, but different. Every time our modified engine pulses, their ships shimmer, like they're responding to the frequency." "Can we use that?" Marcus ran his hands through his wild hair. "Maybe. Give me that hour to figure it out." "But sir," he looked up, his eyes serious. "If I'm right, we might have a chance. If I'm wrong, we'll probably blow ourselves up." Walker looked at the tactical display again. The Dominion fleet hung in space like a beautiful, deadly artwork. Their own ship was tiny in comparison, a speck of dust against a wall of crystal. "Do what you can," Walker told Marcus. "The rest of you, prepare for anything. If we can't stop them here, we need to at least warn Earth." The next 50 minutes passed in tense silence. The crew worked at their stations, each knowing these might be their last moments. Marcus disappeared into the engine room, occasional crashes and curses floating up through the ship's corridors. With 10 minutes remaining, Admiral Parker's face appeared on their screen. "Walker, what the hell is going on out there?" "Your emergency signal." "Sir," Walker interrupted, "we have a first contact situation. Hostile aliens calling themselves the Dominion. They're demanding Earth's surrender and have the firepower to back it up." He transmitted their sensor data. The Admiral's face went pale as he looked at the readings. "My God. The nearest battle group is 3 days away. Walker, you need to get out of there." "That's an order." "With respect, sir, we might have a way to stop them, or at least slow them down." That rust bucket against their fleet. Parker shook his head. "Don't be a fool, Walker. Run. That's an order." The screen went dark as the alien commander reappeared. "Your time is up, primitive one. What is your answer?" Walker stood straight, his hands clasped behind his back. "We reject your demands. This space belongs to Earth. Leave or face the consequences." The alien commander stared for a moment, then laughed again. You are either very brave or very stupid. Perhaps both. Your death will serve as an example to your species. The communication cut off. On the tactical display, the crystal ships began to move, spreading out to surround the Tenacity. Marcus, Walker called over the intercom. Now would be a good time. Almost ready. Marcus's voice was strained. But sir, this is going to be rough. The modifications weren't meant to be pushed this hard. We might not survive what I'm about to do. Walker looked at his crew. They were scared, but each one nodded back at him. They had chosen to stay, to face this together. Better to go down fighting, Brown said, her hand steady on the controls. All stations, prepare for whatever Marcus is about to do, Walker ordered. It's been an honor serving with you all. The alien ships drew closer, their weapons charging. The Tenacity hung in space, seemingly helpless. To the Dominion fleet, it must have looked like the primitive vessel had frozen in fear. They couldn't have known that inside that old ship, a brilliant engineer was about to prove that sometimes the most dangerous weapon isn't the biggest or the newest. Sometimes it's the one that everyone underestimated. Marcus's voice came over the intercom one last time. Hold on to something, everyone. This is going to be interesting. The Tenacity's engines began to hum, building to a pitch that made their teeth vibrate. Around them, the crystal ships of the Dominion fleet grew closer, weapons ready to fire. And in that moment, as humanity's fate hung in the balance, the ship that everyone had mocked was about to show the galaxy exactly what it could do. The modified engines of the Tenacity screamed like a wounded animal. Red warning lights flashed across every console on the bridge as Marcus pushed the ship beyond anything it was designed to handle. The crew held onto their stations as the deck vibrated beneath their feet. Marcus, Walker called over the intercom. What exactly are you doing to my ship? Something beautiful. Marcus's voice was filled with excitement despite the chaos. Look at their ships, Captain. Look what's happening. Walker turned to the main screen. At first, he didn't see anything unusual. The Dominion fleet still surrounded them, their crystal ships glowing with charged weapons. Then he noticed it, a slight shimmer, like heat waves in a desert, rippling across the nearest alien vessel. Their crystal structure is responding to our engine frequency, Marcus explained. Every ship in their fleet is built from the same material. They're all connected, all resonating together. It's like they're singing, Captain, and we just need to find the right note to make them shatter. As if to prove his point, a thin crack appeared in the hull of the nearest Dominion ship. The alien vessel quickly moved back, but the damage was done. The alien commander's face appeared on their screen again, but this time there was no mockery in his expression. What are you doing? This is impossible. Your technology is primitive. Primitive. Marcus laughed from the engine room. Let me show you what this primitive ship can do. He adjusted something, and the Tenacity's engine note changed. The vibrations grew stronger. More cracks appeared in the nearest alien ships, spreading like spider webs across their crystal surfaces. Sir, Wells reported, they're pulling back. All except their command ship. It's moving toward us. The massive crystal vessel approached, its weapons powering up. The alien commander's voice boomed through their speakers. Enough. You will die for this insult. But Walker had seen something important. The command ship's crystal structure was different, denser, more complex. It wasn't showing the same signs of stress as the other ships. Marcus, he called, the command ship isn't affected. Can you adjust the frequency? I'm trying. Marcus sounded frustrated now. But the engines weren't meant for this. We're pushing them too hard. Something's going to break. As if to emphasize his point, a loud crack echoed through the ship. The lights flickered, and for a moment, the engine note faltered. The alien ships immediately began to stabilize, their cracks topping their spread. No, 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 Marcus shouted. He was typing frantically at his console. Just need a little more power. A little more. Sir, Brown's voice was urgent. "The command ship is charging its main weapon. Impact in 30 seconds. Walker made a quick decision. "Marcus, forget the command ship. Focus on the rest of their fleet. Brown, plot us a course through their formation. Get us close to as many ships as possible." "But, sir," Wells protested, "their command ship will destroy us." "Not if we destroy their fleet first," Walker said calmly. "Marcus, give us everything you've got. Brown, on my mark, take us in." The Tenacity's engines changed pitch again, rising to a sound that made their teeth hurt. Warning signals blared as systems throughout the ship began to overload. But in space around them, the effect was immediate. The crystal ships closest to them began to crack more severely, pieces of their hulls breaking off into space. 20 seconds to weapon impact. Wells called out, "Now, Brown, take us in." The Tenacity moved like it never had before. Marcus's modifications gave them speed and maneuverability that seemed impossible for such an old ship. They dove into the alien formation, weaving between the massive crystal vessels. Everywhere they passed, ships began to break apart. The resonance from their engines had reached a critical point. Entire sections of crystal hull were splitting away. Some ships tried to retreat, but they were too late. The damage spread from ship to ship through their connected crystal structures. 10 seconds. The command ship's weapon was fully charged now, its crystal focusing arrays glowing with deadly energy. But its target wasn't there anymore. The Tenacity spun and rolled through the disintegrating fleet, leaving destruction in its wake. 5 seconds. "Brace for impact," Walker ordered. "Marcus, give us one last push." The engineer didn't respond with words. Instead, he poured everything their struggling engines had into one final burst. The sound they made wasn't even human anymore. It was like the ship itself was screaming out a battle cry. The effect rippled through space like a wave. Every crystal ship in range began to break apart simultaneously. Their beautiful geometric shapes collapsed into clouds of glittering shards. Explosions bloomed as their power cores went critical. The command ship fired its weapon, but in that same moment, its support fleet disintegrated. The energy beam went wide as fragments of crystal ships slammed into it from all sides. The massive vessel tried to turn, tried to escape, but it was caught in a storm of its own fleet's remains. On the Tenacity's bridge, screens were exploding from power surges. Smoke poured from overloaded systems. The deck plates grew hot beneath their feet as the engines pushed far beyond their limits. "Main power failing," Wells shouted over the noise. "Hull breaches on decks 3 and 4. Emergency containment holding." "Get us clear," Walker ordered. "Brown, any course. Just get us out of this debris field." The Tenacity limped away from the destruction, its engines finally quieting to a pained whine. Behind them, the remnants of the Dominion fleet drifted in space like a field of broken glass. The command ship was largely intact, but severely damaged, its perfect crystal surface now scarred and cracked. The alien commander appeared on their screen one last time. His face showed something new now. "Fear. This is not possible," he said quietly. "You are primitives. Your ship is obsolete." "Maybe," Walker replied, "but we understood something you didn't. The biggest mistake you can make in battle isn't underestimating your enemy's strength. It's underestimating their intelligence." The commander stared at him for a long moment. Then the screen went dark. The command ship turned slowly, gathering the few surviving vessels of its fleet. They vanished into space, leaving behind a graveyard of crystal shards that glittered like stars. In the sudden quiet, Walker looked around his bridge. Every system was damaged, every screen cracked. His crew was battered but alive, and pride showed on their smoke-stained faces. They had done the impossible. "Marcus," he called out, "how are the engines?" There was a long pause before the engineer responded. "Well, Captain, I have good news and bad news. The good news is we won't explode. The bad news is we might need a few repairs." Walker laughed. and the rest of the crew joined in. The laughter was tired and a bit hysterical, but it was real. They were alive, and they had just saved Earth from an alien armada. As emergency power came back online and Brown plotted their slow course home, Walker looked out at the field of crystal debris. The Tenacity had been underestimated for the last time. Now everyone would know what this old ship and its crew could do. But first, they needed to survive the repair bill and explain to Admiral Parker exactly how Earth's most outdated ship had just destroyed the most advanced fleet in known space. The journey back to Earth was slow and dangerous. The Tenacity limped through space, its damaged engines struggling to maintain even basic power. Emergency repair crews worked around the clock to keep the ship together, while Marcus spent every waking moment trying to prevent the overtaxed systems from failing completely. "How bad is it really?" Walker asked as he stood in the ruined engine room. The place looked like a war zone, with burnt panels and exposed wiring everywhere. Marcus wiped grease from his face, leaving a darker smudge. "Remember when I said we needed a few repairs? I may have understated things a bit." He pointed to a twisted mass of metal that used to be part of the engine core. "We're running on backup systems now. The main modifications are completely burnt out." Before Walker could respond, Brown's voice came over the intercom. "Captain to the bridge, immediately. We're picking up new contacts." Walker ran to the bridge, his heart sinking. The Tenacity could barely move, let alone fight. If the Dominion had returned. But the ships appearing on their sensors weren't crystal vessels. These were Earth Defense Force ships, an entire battle group led by Admiral Parker's flagship. "Tenacity, this is Admiral Parker." The familiar voice crackled through their damaged communication system. "Report your status." "Admiral," Walker replied, trying to keep his voice steady despite his relief. "The Tenacity has suffered severe damage, but we're intact. The Dominion fleet has been driven off. We'll need assistance to return to Earth." There was a long pause. "Driven off?" Parker's voice was incredulous. "Walker, our long-range scans showed a massive battle. Are you telling me your single ship engaged their entire fleet?" "Not just engaged, sir. We won." Another long pause. "Hold position, Tenacity. We're sending rescue teams to assess your situation." The next few hours were a blur of activity. Engineering teams from the battle group swarmed through the Tenacity, their faces showing increasing disbelief as they saw what Marcus had done with the engines. Medical teams treated the crew's injuries, while damage control specialists worked to stabilize the failing systems. Admiral Parker himself came aboard, accompanied by a team of senior officers. They found Walker in what was left of the bridge, writing his report. "I didn't believe it when I first saw the sensor readings," Parker said, looking around at the battle damage. "One obsolete corvette against an alien armada. It should have been impossible." Walker stood to attention, but Parker waved him back to his seat. "At ease, Captain. I think we're past formalities at this point. Tell me how you did it." So Walker explained everything. Marcus's modifications, the discovery of the crystal ship's weakness, their desperate gamble to use the engine resonance as a weapon. As he spoke, more officers crowded onto the bridge, listening intently. "And the aliens?" Parker asked when he finished. "You're sure they're gone?" "They retreated, sir, but I don't think they'll stay gone forever." They seemed angry, humiliated. "They'll want revenge." Parker nodded slowly. "Then we need to be ready. Your engineers' discovery about their crystal technology could be the key to defending Earth." He paused, looking around the damaged bridge again. "I owe you an apology, Walker. I called this ship a rust bucket. I tried to hide it away in an empty sector. That empty sector put us in the right place to stop them, sir." "True." Parker smiled slightly. "Sometimes the old ways surprise us. Speaking of surprises, where is your miracle worker? Where's Reed?" As if summoned by his name, Marcus appeared in the doorway. He looked even worse than before, covered in engine grease and sporting a fresh burn on one arm. but his eyes were bright with excitement. "Captain, Admiral, you need to see this." He held up a crystal shard, a piece of debris from one of the destroyed alien ships. "I've been studying their technology. It's incredible. The crystal matrix isn't just their hull. It's their whole computer system, their power source, everything. And now that we know how to disrupt it." He trailed off, noticing all the senior officers staring at him. "Oh, sorry for interrupting." Parker looked at the wild-haired engineer for a long moment. Then he laughed. "Mr. Reed, I think you and I need to have a long conversation about your engine modifications and about what we can learn from these crystal fragments." "Sir," one of the other officers interrupted, "the news is already spreading through the fleet. Everyone's talking about how the Tenacity drove off an alien armada. They're calling it the museum ship miracle." "Not museum ship," Parker corrected. "War hero." He turned back to Walker. "I'm recommending your entire crew for commendations, and the Tenacity will be fully repaired, with some improvements, I think. Mr. Reed, how would you like a proper research budget?" Marcus's eyes went wide. "You mean official authorization to modify the engines? No more hiding my experiments. Better than that. I want you to help develop defenses against these crystal ships. If they come back, Earth needs to be ready." As the Admiral and his staff discussed plans with an increasingly excited Marcus, Walker sat back in his damaged captain's chair. His ship was barely holding together. His crew was exhausted. But they had done something incredible. They had proved that sometimes the oldest ship could be the most dangerous. Wells moved to stand beside him. "Sir, message coming in from Earth. They're calling us heroes. They want interviews, ceremonies." He grinned. "Not bad for an obsolete ship, right?" Walker smiled but shook his head. "We're not heroes. We're just a crew that refused to be underestimated. And now," he looked at the crystal shard Marcus was showing to the Admiral, "now we have work to do. Because those aliens will be back, and next time they won't make the mistake of ignoring the old ship in their path." Through the broken viewport, he could see the Earth fleet surrounding them, their ships gleaming and new. But none of them had done what the Tenacity had done. None of them had faced down an alien armada and won. The ship shuddered slightly as another system failed somewhere deep inside. Marcus immediately rushed off, shouting about emergency repairs, while the Admiral's engineers hurried after him. Walker watched them go, feeling proud of his unconventional crew and their battered ship. The Tenacity might be old, might be damaged, but it had earned something more valuable than any modern upgrade: respect. The next time aliens threatened Earth, they would learn what humans already knew. Sometimes the most dangerous weapon isn't the newest or the biggest. Sometimes it's the one that everyone underestimated. 6 months had passed since the battle with the Dominion fleet. Earth had changed in that time. The threat of alien invasion had united the planet in a way nothing else could. Defense systems were being built. New ships were under construction. And at the center of it all was the Tenacity. The old ship floated in the orbital dock, looking both familiar and strange. Its hull had been repaired, but Marcus's modifications were now official upgrades rather than hidden experiments. Crystal technology salvaged from the destroyed alien ships had been carefully studied and incorporated into the Earth fleet's designs. The Tenacity was the first to receive these upgrades. Walker stood in the observation deck of the space station, watching the work on his ship. Engineers swarmed around it like bees, installing new systems and reinforcing the hull. The Tenacity no longer looked like an old, forgotten vessel. It looked dangerous. "Quite a sight, isn't it?" Admiral Parker asked, joining Walker at the window. "The most famous ship in the fleet." Walker nodded. "Almost don't recognize her anymore. All those upgrades. Most of them based on Reed's original designs," Parker reminded him. "Your engineer has become something of a celebrity among our research teams. They can barely keep up with his ideas." As if on cue, Marcus burst through the door, followed by a group of harried-looking scientists. He was talking rapidly and gesturing with a tablet in his hand. The crystal matrix can be calibrated to project a resonance field that matches their communication frequencies, he was saying. If we time it right, we can disrupt their entire command structure before they even realize what's happening. The scientists were nodding and taking notes. One of them looked up and noticed the Admiral. "Sir, we didn't know you were here." Parker waved away their concerns. "Carry on. Mr. Reed's ideas have saved us once already. I'm not about to start interrupting him now." Marcus finally noticed Walker and rushed over, his face alight with excitement. "Captain, you have to see this." He thrust the tablet forward, showing complex diagrams that Walker couldn't begin to understand. "We found a way to use the crystal technology to improve our engines by 300%. 300. The tenacity will be faster than anything in space." Walker smiled at his engineer's enthusiasm. "That's excellent news, Marcus. But what about the weapon systems? Are we ready if the Dominion returns?" Marcus's smile faded slightly. "That's complicated. We're making progress, but there's still so much we don't understand about their technology. We need more time." "Time we may not have," Parker said gravely. "Our long-range scanners have detected movement at the edge of our solar system. Crystal ships, Captain. A lot of them." The observation deck went silent. Everyone knew what that meant. The Dominion was coming back, and this time they would be prepared for the tenacity's tricks. "How long do we have?" Walker asked. 2 weeks, maybe less," Parker replied. "We're mobilizing everything we have, but most of our new ships aren't ready yet. The tenacity might be our best hope again." Marcus looked down at his tablet, then back up with determination in his eyes. 2 weeks is enough. We'll be ready." The next 14 days passed in a blur of activity. The entire Earth Defense Force worked around the clock to prepare for the coming invasion. New weapons were rushed into production. Defense satellites were positioned. Every available ship was armed and made ready for battle. But everyone knew the real fight would come down to the tenacity and its unique capabilities. The ship that had once been mocked as obsolete was now Earth's greatest weapon. Walker spent most of that time overseeing the final upgrades to his ship. The crew had changed somewhat. Many had been promoted or reassigned to share their experience with other ships. But the core remained. Wells still manned the tactical station. Brown still handled navigation. And Marcus still worked miracles in the engine room. The night before the Dominion fleet was expected to arrive, Walker found Marcus in the engine room, surrounded by crystal components and tools. "Will it work?" Walker asked simply. Marcus looked up, his face tired but confident. "It'll work. The resonance projector is more powerful than before, and I've found a way to protect our systems from burning out this time." He patted the modified engine core. "She won't let us down, Captain." "I never thought she would," Walker replied. "Get some rest, Marcus. Tomorrow will be here soon enough." But rest was the last thing on anyone's mind when the alarm sounded just 4 hours later. The Dominion fleet had arrived early, and it was massive, 5 times larger than the force they had defeated before. The Tenacity launched with the rest of the Earth fleet, taking position at the front of the formation. On the bridge, Walker watched the tactical display with a calm he didn't entirely feel. The crystal ships filled the screen, their perfect geometric shapes somehow more menacing than before. "They've changed their hull structure," Wells reported. "The crystal matrix is different, more densely packed, with some kind of reinforcement." "They learned from last time," Walker said. "They're expecting our resonance attack." The main screen lit up with the now familiar face of the Dominion commander. But it wasn't the same one as before. This alien looked older, its crystal-like skin harder and less flexible. "Humans," the commander spoke, voice cold. "You caused our fleet great embarrassment. The one who failed against you has been replaced. I will not make the same mistakes." "We're not interested in your internal politics," Walker replied. "Leave our system now, and there won't be any need for further conflict." The alien commander made a sound like breaking glass, A laugh, perhaps. You still believe you can dictate terms. Your trick will not work twice. We have studied the recordings of our previous encounter. Your ship's resonance weapon is known to us now. Behind Walker, Marcus whispered, "Good. That's exactly what we wanted." Walker kept his expression neutral. "Then you know what we're capable of. Leave, or face the consequences." "We will show you consequences," the commander said. The screen went dark. The Dominion fleet began to move, spreading into an attack formation. Their weapons charged, glowing with deadly energy. But they were careful to keep their distance from the Tenacity, clearly wary of its resonance capabilities. "They're staying out of our effective range," Wells said. They remembered. "Perfect," Marcus replied with a grin. "Activate the new system on my mark." Walker gave the order. "All Earth ships, hold position. Let them come to us." The Dominion fleet advanced cautiously, their weapons ready but not firing yet. They were being careful this time, methodical. Their formation was designed to isolate the Tenacity from the rest of the Earth fleet. "They're focusing on us," Brown observed, "just like we predicted." "Wait for it," Marcus said, his eyes fixed on the engineering display. "Wait until they're all in formation." The crystal ships moved into their final attack positions, a beautiful and deadly geometric pattern with the Tenacity at its center. Their weapons powered to maximum. "Now," Marcus shouted. Walker gave the order. "Activate the resonance projector." But instead of the engine's scream they had expected, the Tenacity went completely silent. Every system shut down simultaneously. On the bridge, even the emergency lights went dark. For 3 terrifying seconds, the ship drifted in space, seemingly defenseless. The Dominion fleet paused, clearly confused by this unexpected development. Then, with a sound like thunder, the crystal matrix embedded throughout the Tenacity's hull activated. Energy rippled outward in a perfect wave, invisible but devastating. It wasn't a weapon in the traditional sense. It was a key, unlocking a fatal flaw in the Dominion ship's design. The effect was immediate and catastrophic. Every crystal ship in the fleet began to glow from within, their perfect structures turning against them. What Marcus had discovered wasn't how to break their ships. It was how to make them break themselves. One by one, then in groups, then in massive waves, the Dominion vessels shattered. Their crystal hulls collapsed into clouds of glittering dust. Their weapons discharged harmlessly into empty space. Their perfect formation became a graveyard of broken shards. On the Tenacity's bridge, power slowly returned. Screens flickered back to life, showing the destruction they had caused. The Earth fleet remained untouched, watching in amazement as the mighty Dominion Armada disappeared into glittering dust. "How?" Wells asked, staring at the tactical display in disbelief. Marcus smiled tiredly. "They were so busy protecting themselves against what we did last time. They didn't notice what we were really doing. Their crystal ships all used the same basic structure, like a password. We just found the master key." As reports of victory flooded in from across the fleet, Walker looked out at the field of crystal debris. The ship everyone had once called obsolete had just saved Earth for the second time. The old Tenacity, with its patched hull and modified engines, had proved once again that in the face of overwhelming odds, human ingenuity was the most powerful weapon of all.